Hey friends, Joe Edelman here again. As you know, I have the honor of performing the role of Mr. Thom Yorke in my Radiohead tribute group, There There, and it continues to be an insanely fun opportunity to send up one of my all-time musical heroes. A while back, I made a video doing a deep dive on Radiohead's guitar effect setups throughout the years, diving into each of Thom, Johnny, and Ed's favorite pedals, and showing you my closest approximations of each using both the original pedals and substitutes. Obviously, my pedal arsenal has evolved in the years since I made that video, and I've been lucky to personally explore even more of the gear that Radiohead has used to craft their sound. Specifically, I've continued refining my Thom Yorke guitar pedal setup, and in this video, I'll show you some of the pedals I've added recently and why. Before we get started, be sure to click like and subscribe and tap the bell for notifications if you haven't already, so that you can stay in the loop for future videos. Also be sure to check out ThereThereNYC.com to see when you can catch our band in concert and see some of these pedals in action. Finally, I've placed links in the description for where you can obtain many of these pedals. These are affiliate links, so I would receive a small commission in support of the channel at no extra cost to you. Thom has tended to keep his pedal setups fairly Spartan over the years, starting out with just a lone turbo rat for distortion, but eventually adding some time-based effects and other shades of overdrive and compression. What I have here is an amalgam of the most useful effects I've found for covering a wide swath of their discography, and it continues to evolve and rotate slightly as we bring certain songs into and out of the set. Now, one element of the board that I'm particularly excited about are the hand-built pedals, which I'll talk about in a second. Over the years, I've picked up a thing or two on soldering and circuits, and leaned on my pal, the King of Gear, for some really fantastic advice. Of course, you all know that he builds his own fantastic pedals, which you should check out on his website. Without further ado, here's a quick tour of the board in signal flow order. First, we have the Peterson Strobo Stomp HD tuner. It's a really accurate strobe-style tuner, and I like the big screen. The Decimator G-String is one of my favorite pedals ever that doesn't even make a sound, and I think I've pretty much put one on every board I've ever assembled. It's a noise gate, which helps when you're using single coil pickups or any number of effects which boost the amount of hum or background noise in your signal, like fuzz or compression. The pedal's gate gets triggered by your clean guitar sound, which is why it goes first in the chain, and so it's really precise and accurate. It opens up quickly to preserve your natural guitar attack, and it doesn't clamp down too quickly so as to prevent your notes from sustaining. Given that Thom does like a good bit of gain and uses guitars with both single coils like the Jazzmaster and single coils and hollow bodies like the Casino, this can be a lifesaver on a loud stage to give you a nice professional sound. Next we have the Origin Effects Cali 76 compressor. And I've tried a number of different compressors over the years, but none of them did that fantastic recording studio style pristine compression the way the Cali 76 does. And I say recording studio style because most of Thom's compression on Radiohead records was done by producer Nigel Godrich using the Universal Audio 1176 rack unit, which this pedal seeks to emulate. I'm thinking, for instance, of the gentle fingerpicking on songs like Reckoner or Weird Fishes. Nowadays, Thom uses another boutique pedal compressor made by Telenordia, but the effect is very similar. On this unit, I have the ratio set at minimum, which equates to a 4:1 setting, with the slowest possible attack and fastest possible release times. This lets the regular transients of the guitar picking shine through and not get too squashed, while also letting the compression breathe a little. I've also blended back in a little bit of my clean signal for a parallel compression effect, again to enhance the natural quality. Next is the DigiTech Freakout, and this is a really cool and unique pedal that I know a lot of folks love for creating natural note feedback without the use of an EBow, sustainer pickup, or a really loud amp. I'm specifically using it for the intro to the song There There, but sort of as an insurance policy since my Vox is loud enough and my Casino hollow enough to produce natural feedback for the song, this just helps bolster it and keep it even and self-sustaining regardless of where I am on stage. There are choices for different harmonics you can have the pedal emphasize, and I have mine set to the second harmonic, which is an octave above the note. Next we have a really awesome pedal, which is the latest addition to my board, the Crowther Hotcake. And this is a clone of a Hotcake that I built recently using a PCB from Aeon Effects. They call it the Anomaly Distortion on their site. The Hotcake is a famous and actually fairly retro boutique overdrive that was designed by a gentleman named Paul Crowther in New Zealand to be the perfect match for a Vox amp. It actually has a lot of gain on tap, but how I like to use it, similar to Thom, is as a low to mid gain transparent overdrive boost, which really just pushes the amp to break up a little bit more and be fatter in the low mids. Previously for this purpose, I was using an MXR Timmy, also an excellent pedal. You can hear the Hotcake in action on songs like National Anthem when Thom apes the horn break on guitar, or on King of Limbs songs paired with a hollow body guitar like Little by Little or Morning Mr. Magpie. I have my knob set similar to Thom's, the level around 230, the presence near maximum, and the gain near 11 o'clock. Moving on, we have the JHS Kilt Distortion. You may have seen my video doing a shootout between this pedal and the pedal it was inspired by, the Bixonic Expandora, which was also a staple of Thom's during the In Rainbows touring era and used for live performances of Body Snatchers. The Expandora is a rat-adjacent circuit, so it does well covering those crunchy 90s tones from Thom's earlier pedal days as well. The Kilt, like the Expandora, also has some fun extra toggle switches to move it into lighter overdrive territory or full blown out fuzz, but here I have it set to distortion mode with toggle D1 down and D2 up. I have the bass setting on flat rather than cut to preserve some more low end as well. And the gain and tone are around noon and the level just below it. Finally, for overdrives and distortions, we have my handmade Tech 21 XXL clone, developed with consultation from the King of Gear himself. I sourced a schematic from a web forum, sketched out a PCB on KiCad, and ordered parts from Mouser, and lo and behold, the 3XL was born. I say 3XL because I've added an extra pre-gain control and modified the tone circuit slightly to allow for increased range of gain and high end. This is a wild distortion pedal unlike pretty much any other that I've heard. The warp control affects the biasing of the op amp used for clipping, so you can get some sputtery, fuzz-like tones along with more cohesive amp-style overdrive. Thom uses the XXL on at least 2 songs live and possibly in the studio, one being There There and the other being Airbag. It has a unique, buzzy sort of growl, and it stays fairly distorted even at minimum gain due to the nature of the circuit. I have my gain set fairly low, the volume at around noon, and the tone pretty much maxed out, with the warp control around 11 o'clock, which is one of the more stable settings with just a hint of hairiness. Now we reach the time-based effects. I have here the Line 6 DL4 Mark II, which of course is Line 6's modern reissue of its now all-time classic green delay modeler box. However, you may have already known that it is the looper inside the DL4 that gained even greater notoriety than its delays, with players like Thom, Ed O'Brien, and countless others outside of Radiohead using it as their looper of choice. I too am using its looper, as Thom does for the song Bloom, to layer a series of riffs based on the studio recording's piano loops that evolve over time. This is possible because the DL4's looper has an inbuilt amount of decay, meaning that new layers will slowly begin to erase the oldest ones to allow for near infinite sound-on-sound recording without making a jumbled mess. I also use the pedal's Memory Man and Space Echo emulations from time to add ambience to Thom's parts at the end of songs like Talk Show Host and Dex Dark. Last but not least, we have the Electro Harmonix Holy Grail Neo. This is a very similar pedal to the Holy Grail Nano, which Thom uses, but with the substitution of a plate mode for the ever-controversial Flurb. Thom actually uses the Hall setting for songs like Where I End and You Begin during the muted strum solo in the middle of the song, but the spring and the plate modes are also great. I love the simplicity of the pedal. It's just a single knob controlling the amount of reverb, and it sounds pretty great at any setting, but I tend to keep it around 9 o'clock for a moderate splash of verb. So hopefully you enjoyed this little tour of the updated board, and maybe it even gave you some inspiration for pedal boards of your own. As I stated in the last video, the specific pedal choices here are not as important as how they get used, and you can obviously achieve a lot of the same sounds with similar effects of other makes and models, like I did in the MXR Timmy Hotcake example. That being said, it is really fun to use the same gear and see how it reacts to your choices in playing and preferences in settings and timbre. As always, be well, happy pedalboarding, and I'll see you again soon.